Hello, everyone. I don't know if this is recording or how it's working exactly. It's something different I'm trying out just because I thought I would give some information out. Hopefully it'll record. If it doesn't, I'll rebroadcast this in the form of a recording. Board of Directors met recently and discussed the upcoming 2017 budget. One of the things that we're running into is some increases in maintenance at the townhomes. Many of them have been put off at different times. We've run into some issues with the amount of money we're bringing in, both because of the costs of things going out, and then also because of the general budget, just how we've spent the money. We've tried to spend the money as appropriately as possible. We've attacked our, for the better, lack of a better word, we've attacked our contractors at multiple times, trying to find ways to cut the costs. We've questioned everything we can as far as what we're paying. Why are we paying this amount? Sometimes we've had costs waived. We've tried to handle those things as well as we can. Unfortunately, we're still running short in some areas, and it's not because we're spending money like crazy. In fact, at times, especially when it comes to the townhomes, we're not spending the money when we want to, and that's just because we don't have the money. Much like your own budgets, you may want a brand new lawnmower, or you may want to replace something in your home or even do an improvement of some sort. But if you don't have the money in the bank, you have to go against credit at best, and we don't have credit we can go against. The neighborhood has what money we have. We have a reserve which we can draw from, but generally speaking, we try to pay into the reserve, not take from the reserve, and that's just so that in the future, when there are very, very large costs that pop up, we'll have the ability to pay those costs, things like roofs that need replaced, that kind of thing. So I've just finished up drafting a quick letter that's going to go out to the neighborhood. I'm going to tell you what I put in the letter, or not to the neighborhood, but to the board. I'll tell you what I put in the letter, the suggestion I made to the board, and then, of course, the board will be trying to meet to discuss that. I would like to have a meeting in the future to discuss this, or at least discuss it in a public forum, allow the board to talk in front of the neighborhood and those that would be interested in coming. However, in the past, it just ends up costing us money. Nobody comes to the meetings in general, and it's for a good reason. People are busy, and hopefully it's because people are, for the most part, satisfied with the improvements we've been making. When it comes to HOAs, historically, when you don't have a room full of people, it's not because nobody cares. It's because people are pretty happy with things. Not to say that everything's perfect, but we're working with 295 homes in the neighborhood. 64 of those are townhomes. 231 of those are single family homes. You've got a lot of different people, a lot of families, a lot of different cultures, backgrounds. So that's going to create different walks of life. People have different needs, wants, desires. So we're doing what we can. We're working with a lot of different types of people and a lot of different incomes. To a lot of people, we're already paying way too much for our dues. To other people, they see it from the point of view of, wow, we really should be paying more for our dues. And I think until you put your hands on the budget and you actually sit down and try to pay the bills that we pay, it's really difficult to get a good grasp. Even if we just show you the numbers, like I'll put the numbers out anytime somebody wants them. And it's real easy to look through and go, why don't we pay this? Why don't we pay that? But the reality is we're doing everything we can with it. So we met just recently. The board discussed a dues increase of around 1.5%, which is what we're projected to spend. And after doing some hard looking, here is the information I'm going to put out to the board in an email that I'm going to send out in just a few minutes. I sent out the email. I'm going to take a little bit of the information out because I discussed a few sensitive matters that are still pending in court. So I'll try to remove that information, but fill in the basic details. What I said was all thanks again for getting together a few weeks ago to discuss the budget needs for 2017, as well as the reserves, the townhome maintenance, and possible increases. For those who don't know, I want to provide a little bit of information. Several years ago, we had a reserve study done in Almond Glen by an outside company certified to do so. The company provided an on-the-ground assessment of our various items of responsibility: pool, retaining walls, townhomes, entrance monuments, parking lots, etc. They then calculated the expected lifetime of those items and gave us a rough but educated guess as to the amount of money we should be saving in order to replace or repair those items as time goes by. This helped us examine the reserves and come up with a plan to properly fund the reserves. Sydney, who's acted as our treasurer for the entire time, essentially, that we've been on the board, even the first year he was in charge of the finance committee, which made him the treasurer, just not in title. Sydney examined the reserve study and laid out a plan, 25 years, if I remember correctly, which was a guide for the board, future boards, to refer to whenever planning the yearly budgets. This rough plan was based on the needed reserves, the cost of living increases, and our expected income. You have to keep in mind, whenever we talk about our expected income, we send out bills to everybody in the neighborhood, but not everybody pays. Some people in the neighborhood, for various reasons, do not make their payments, and that can result in a foreclosure. There's just bankruptcies can come into play. There's a whole lot of things that come in place. So just like any company, we say, hey, you owe us this much money, and we may not actually physically collect at the time we need it, that money. So we have to even plan for that. We are nearing the end of a lawsuit, and that's where I can't really discuss too much of the details of the lawsuit because we're not completed. I'll give you another update on that, but that's going to most likely result in some changes to our income for 2017, and that's what I discussed there. The townhomes recently experienced another water line issue, which has resulted in the need to dig and replace more water lines. The trees in the townhomes are directly above the water lines, so more of these issues are coming. It's not if, it's when. The cost is generally $2,000 to $3,000, and it's not something we can put off. When it occurs, we have to fix it. The water lines, the trees are positioned right above them, so the trees are naturally finding their way down to those water lines. We cannot just come in and rip the trees out. Like Sir County won't allow us to just rip trees out. Otherwise, we might discuss, as much as it would hurt some people to see it happen, we might discuss removing trees and replacing them with smaller every couple of years to kind of control the growth, but we just can't do it. So essentially, we have to wait until the trees get into the water lines, and then once they get into the water lines, then we have to have somebody come in and dig it all up, and that could even result in the death of a tree, which then we need to replace the tree. It's an ongoing process. We have maintenance issues at the townhomes, which have been patched, put off, or etc. We need to begin assessing many of these issues in the spring of 2017, if not sooner. We actually just had the townhomes pressure washed, and that cost us $7,800, plus the cost of water that we need to pay to basically pay for the water that we use. People allowed us to hook up to their townhome, which then increases their bill, and we have to pay that. In 2016, we shortened our payment to the reserves in order to implement upgrades at the pool, maintenance at the townhomes, etc. We did things like install the gate system, the camera system, things like that. Try to do some updates on the chairs and things. And the idea is that hopefully as time goes by, because we've implemented the gate controls and things, we can decrease the cost of our yearly plan with the pool company. It's on standard, the average is about $7,000 to just have somebody come in and check the water, that kind of thing. It would be great to just say, hey, $7,000 a year, and we'll clean up after ourselves and take care of the pool. But people drag chairs all over the place. They let their kids flip the chairs on their sides and make forts out of them, which can beat up and damage the chairs to the point where they need replaced. They go into the restroom and make a mess and don't clean up. There's so many things that go into it. You need to have somebody there to every once in a while walk around and say, hey, you can't have glass in here, because people continuously bring glass into the pool and they throw the bottles into the trash cans, and they don't concern themselves with the fact that somebody could sneak into the pool at night and dump the trash can into the water, which would then result in us having to have the pool drained. I've discussed it at length that it's about $3,000 if glass gets broken inside the pool, the gated area. If DHEC comes in, we could get fined if they catch people. So for various reasons, we have to have basically a babysitter to come in and check the pool and fix things up there. So I don't see that we're ever going to be able to get away from having at least an attendant. And whereas the attendant has some advantages over the lifeguards, the cost of the attendant versus the cost of a lifeguard is not one of the advantages. You can pay a lifeguard less because lifeguards are generally younger. The attendants are usually a little bit older, and it's just the way the costs work out. So we're trying to do what we can with the pool, but to some degree, it's just an expense we have to accept. Let's see, I was talking about how we shorted our payment in order to make changes in the pool maintenance issues, things like that. We were projected to short the reserves again in 2017 with our current budget and a minimal increase in dues. And that was something we discussed when we met. Like I said, we met, we discussed the cost of our future goals for the neighborhood, some of the things we have to implement, some of the things we have implemented already. And that is, that's going to cause us to short the budget again for the reserves. So every time we short the reserves, we're basically not putting the money we originally said we would into savings. And since we're putting the money into the reserves based off of that reserve study, a good way to look at it would be if you bought a refrigerator and you put a refrigerator in your house. And if you're responsible, you looked at the refrigerator and you say, okay, this is going to last 5 years. It's going to cost, let's say, $1,000 to replace the refrigerator in 5 years. That means you need to put aside $200 every year for the next 5 years, so that when that refrigerator breaks down, you're ready to come in with the $1,000 and replace the refrigerator right away, no problems. It's not really the way Americans work, so it's not what we're used to. We've gotten very used to credit. So again, keep in mind, we can't do that with the HOA. We have to go off of what we have. Of course, your refrigerator could break down in 4 years, and then you've only got $800, so you'd have to come up with the $200, and we're in the exact same boat. We have to make sure we're funding the reserves properly so that if the townhomes roofs need replaced 5 years earlier than we expect, we have the money to do so. If we don't, we have to go to a special assessment. And the way our bylaws are set up in this neighborhood, in order to get a special assessment through, we would have to go to the neighborhood and say, please, will you give us the money? We need you to vote yes. And it'd have to have a super majority, I think it is, which is approximately 67% of the homes. So I have to somehow get 67% of the homes to say, yes, we'll pay the money you need. So let's say we needed $5,000, divide that up by 295. You go to everybody and ask them for that money. We actually have to probably ask for about 15% more, because we have to expect that some people, again, like anything else, they're going to say, I don't have the money, not pay. So now we're going to have to go after them through lawsuits. It's a large process. So it's not something we can just fix. So we need to be responsible on the front end. They always say, many hands make light work. So if I take a few pennies from everybody and put them all together, I have the money I need for that new problem we've got. And that's what we're looking at. Let's see here. In 2016, we increased the single family dues 1.5% and the townhomes 3%. Our original projections called for a 1.5% increase across the board, but we saw an ever-growing widening difference between the payments made by the townhomes and the cost of townhome maintenance. As I recall, the dues paid by the single-family homes supplemented the townhomes needs by about $20,000. So the way we do the budget is the single-family homes pay for the general budget. That's all they're paying into. We don't pay for the townhomes. We just have things like the pools, the monuments, the sidewalks, the reserves for those things, anything like that. That's what the single family homes are paying for. That's what your dues are going into. So when we look at the budget for the year and we say, okay, what do we need? We look at that $400 and some dollars, I forget what it is, or $500 that the single family homes pay per year. That is, if you multiply that times 231, that's the single family homes part of that budget. And then what we do is we go to the townhomes and we say, we need the exact same amount from you. So assuming that our entire needs for the neighborhood, just in the general budget, monuments, pool, sidewalks, light bills, just all the things that the entire neighborhood utilizes, looking at that and saying, okay, how much money do we need? We take that, let's say it's $100,000 per year, and we divide it up amongst 295 homes, single family homes and the townhomes all pay into that. Then what we do is we say, okay, how much money do we need for the townhomes and their special needs? They get landscaping things done. They need pressure washing. They need paint repairs, caulk, any of these things that pop up, like the maintenance issues on their roofs, or the maintenance issues where the trees grow into the roots, that kind of thing. How much money do the townhomes need? You take that budget, and that's the extra money the townhomes are paying in, which is approximately, they're paying about $1,500 a year, so slice out about $500, they're paying about $1,000. So what that ends up giving us is about $64,000, 64 townhomes times around 1,000, $64,000 for all of their needs. That includes their special budget issues for their reserves, and then any of their special budget issues for the townhomes alone. And that money goes quick. because they have a lot of big needs that come up. Like I said, $700-800 just to pressure wash them. And whereas you as a homeowner can look at your house and say, I don't think I need pressure washing this year. We run into the same issue with the townhomes, except they expect these things done. Well, the problem is if I don't have the money to pressure wash townhomes, you're not getting it. Just like if I don't have the money to pressure wash my own home, I'm not getting it. And then, of course, there's just these little issues that pop up for them. So that's how the budget works across the board. So what we did is we looked at it, and by the time you're done paying all the bills that need to be paid, just to pay the bills for the townhomes, we have to dip into the general budget by about 20 grand a year. If the townhomes were paying every penny of what they use per year, because we're nonprofit, we only take in what we need and then we spend it, or we put it into reserves. If the townhomes were paying just what they needed, then the townhome budget would be much higher and the single family budget would be much lower. Obviously, when they started us off, that's not how the initial budget was set up, the initial cost for this neighborhood. So the townhomes are being supplemented by the single families, which is pretty common for what you're going to see in neighborhoods. We don't necessarily intend to close that gap because it would cause a severe increase on the townhomes to get there. But the goal was to cause a slowdown, just a little bit of a slowdown in that increasing and widening gap. As the townhomes needs grow and their maintenance issues grow, that means they need more money per year. The single family homes then have to somehow keep up with that. Eventually they're going to get to the point where they need such a large amount that everybody has to come up. It's just an ever-growing problem. So we increased the dues by 3% in the townhomes, 1.5% in the single families. Our original projections called for a 1.5% increase. I talked about that, the 20 grand per year. Our budget is stretched to the max, and we are limited in how much we can raise the dues each year, which is a maximum of 6%. I'm going to suggest the board increase. Make a change here. I got the date wrong. I'm going to suggest to the board an increase of 3% for the single family homes and 6% for the townhomes for 2017. What that means is the single family homes would normally go up about 1.5%. Townhomes were also projected to go up 1.5%, but because of that ever widening gap and the needs we have for the townhomes, we need to increase the dues for the townhomes to the max, which is the 6%. That's to keep up with the needs for the townhomes. We're also going to increase the dues, if they were to follow my suggestion, 3% for the single family homes. That covers cost of living, and it also, frankly, helps us keep up with those growing needs we have for the neighborhoods issues and as well as townhomes. If we just, as single family homeowners, say it's not our problem, we're not going to worry about it, eventually it will be our problem, and it'll be our problem on a large scale. So we have to consider that. We just have to. Looking at 3% for the single family, 6% for the townhome. Single family homes would increase from $144.74 a quarter to $149.08 per quarter. Then we could look at $136.84 per month for the townhomes would go to $145.05 per month for the townhomes. So that's the increase if they follow the projections. Then I'm suggesting that's the increase you'd be looking at. Single family homeowners would need to pay January 1st. By January 1st, you would need to have a check of $149.08 over at the management company or into the bank. And you would need to have $145.05 per month for the townhomes. And you have to remember, for many of you, you're going, well, a dues increase is no fun. I wish we would have zero increase. But okay, I get it. It's only a few dollars per month, or it's only a few dollars a quarter, but there's a lot of people that is going to cause a hardship. They're already looking at their budgets and saying, where am I going to get the money for my various needs already? And we're increasing the dues on the single family homes almost $10 per month. It's about $9 per month, somewhere in there, $9-10 per month. To you and to me, that isn't a huge increase, but I can totally recognize where roughly $100 or so per year is a big deal to somebody. Again, though, many hands make light work. If we don't take care of it now, 10 years from now, we're gonna have that problem. So we have to look at these things on the front end. We can't just put it off and wait. And I'm certainly not going to put it off just because I don't want people mad at me in the neighborhood. It wouldn't be the first time that people in the neighborhood are mad at me and walking around talking about what a jerk I am. So I'm prepared as a member of the board to take on that responsibility, to take that that anger on and accept the fact that I'm frustrating people by increasing their dues and even not spending the money the way they want. I feel like we're doing what we need to for the neighborhood, and I feel like we're doing what is responsible. So that's my suggestion to the board. I'm going to ask that the board support that. Of course, they have the ability to tell me no. You have the ability to reach out to the board members based off of the information you're getting here and say, hey, I understand this is what Rob's suggesting, and I want you to say this, I want you to say no, and this is the reason. And then they'll have to make their decision. To continue what I point out to the board members, the projection for this year would again call for 1.5% increase on all homes, but short payments to the reserves and increase the need for maintenance, and the increased need for the maintenance has put us in a position where we must re-examine our budget for 2017. I really just slaughtered that sentence. The projection for this year would again call for 1.5% increase on all homes, but the short payments to the reserve and increased need for maintenance has put us in a position where we must re-examine our budget for 2017. I apologize, I'm slaughtering myself here. I'm reading my own stuff and I can't read it. Basically what I was saying is because we shorted the payments to the reserves last year and we're facing another short to the reserves this year to try to keep up with our needs, we need more money. Also, we have maintenance needs within the community, and that's drawing us to where we need more money. So because we have needs that are beyond what we've planned for, we have to find a way to fix that. We can either keep drawing from our reserves and deplete our bank account, or which is not fiduciary responsibility at all, or we can choose to say, hey, we need to ask for more money. We need to increase the dues. I would ask that the treasurer prepare a budget which shows the adjusted incomes for 2017. And I would also ask that he include my suggestions of 3.6% to present to the board. It's my hope that we can gain control of our growing budget issues before they become so massive that future boards can hardly function. I, like all of you, am against increasing the dues if it can be avoided. However, it's our duty to provide for this neighborhood's future by acting responsibly when preparing the budget. And I apologize, I'm stumbling all over myself here, but I truly believe that we need to get a hold of this now before it becomes a growing issue. When I sit down in a budget meeting, or we sit down and look at the expenses, or the townhomes have a need of some sort, or even if the pool pump suddenly stopped working, I feel stress as I think about it. I sit and run my hands through my hair and I stare at the budget and I think, where am I going to get the money for this next expenditure? I have to pay for these things. Where am I going to get the money? Unfortunately, the only place I can get money is from the neighborhood. And I apologize for having to increase the dues again, but it's inevitable. We're going to have to do dues increases anyways. And I'm hoping by doing these minor dues increases now, we can get control of things before they become special assessments, massive dues increases every year of at least the 6% every single year, pool pumps that stop working, roofs that need repaired that don't get repaired, monuments that fall down at the front of the neighborhood that don't get replaced, just all these little issues, things that will affect your property values far beyond somebody not mowing their grass in the neighborhood, or not edging properly, or putting up unsightly decorations, that kind of thing. We have to get control of these issues, because incoming homeowners who come and look at this neighborhood, if they're knowledgeable, if they take the time to really look at the resources of the neighborhood, when they request budgets from me, when they request to know if there's dues increases, I have to provide information that I know to be factual. If somebody comes to me and we continue to either not increase the dues at all because we want to be popular, or we increase the dues by a very slight margin, again, because we want to just hold off, we don't want to be the board that did that and raised it 6% or raised it beyond the 1.5 that we originally projected our needs would be. then I think what we're going to do is we're going to end up seeing people not want to buy in our neighborhood because they're going to see special assessments coming. I would have to legitimately tell them, well, we're probably going to have a special assessment in a year or two of $1,000 per home or something. Whereas a couple dollars here and there per month and a couple dollars per quarter, that might hurt a little bit. It definitely would hurt if I came knocking on somebody's door and I said, hey, you have 30 days to pay us $500. That's going to hurt a lot. That would hurt me. That would hurt most of my neighbors. I can't imagine there's anybody in the neighborhood who's like, whatever, no big deal, I'll drop that money. Please hold off. The other thing you can look at, you could certainly look at it from the point of view of saying, I don't plan to be here long term. This house that I'm in right now, I plan to be in here another year or two. Will I be affected by the increases? You may not, and it's not. It would not be the responsible thing to do. I don't know how long I'll live in Almond Glen. I may live here another 25 years. I may live here the rest of my life. I may live here 6 more months. But I'm not going to look down the road and say, how far can I kick the can down the road and make it somebody else's problem? Again, fiduciary responsibility, that's not the right thing to do. I would hope that future boards and those who are taking an interest in the Homeowners Association and how it's run, I would hope that they would do the same responsible thing and not defer the cost to my future. So that's what I'm going to suggest to the board. I was hoping to try to put this information out to the community, and I clicked on this button here, which led to this broadcasting thing. So thank you for taking the time to listen to this. I'm certainly open to having a meeting, but I'm going to send this out to the board. I'm going to ask that the board take a look at the finalized budget. I'm going to ask that Cindy put that together to prepare for the board. I want the board to vote on this and get it implemented as quickly as possible. Today is November the 12th, Saturday, November the 12th. And I really want to make sure we get this out fast, because I know people are trying to make plans for the future of their budgets. And I also realize that it's frustrating to get the increase right after you send a check, and now you have to send another $2 or $3 check. So we're going to try to get this implemented as quickly as possible. So there's a possibility we may go ahead and vote on our budget and go ahead and make it official before we could have the opportunity to meet with the community. But it's Saturday morning, and I'd like to be spending my time with my family, and instead I'm taking the time to try to and let people know what's going on in the community. I want to inform you as much as possible. And it's been a while since I've taken the time to talk to you. So if you have any questions, feel free to email the board at almondglenhoa at gmail.com. Again, it's almondglenhoa at gmail.com. I apologize in the beginning. I didn't even introduce myself. For anybody who doesn't know who the heck I am, my name is Rob Smith, and I'm the president of the Homeowners Association. I've been in this position since we took over in 2013. And we vote yearly to change out the board. This year we had just enough members to vote. I think we ended up with one extra because of a proxy. And we didn't even have enough people interested in being on the board at first. We had to reach out to Paul Shelberg, who was so kind as to say that he would go ahead and run. He's had an interest in the past, so we went ahead and voted him on the board. If you have any questions about the Homeowners Association, in addition to the email address, you can always take a look at almondglenhoa.com. That website has a ton of information on it. Not all of it's completely up to date, because a lot of the articles on there are old, but most of them are pretty relevant. And I've just asked that if you're at all interested in how the neighborhood is run, or you feel like you'd rather have more of a role in what's going on, that you take the time to reach out to me. Talk to me. I'm always interested in getting people engaged, because until I can get other people to take responsibility and step up and take on these roles, those of us who've been serving on the board now for years, we're pretty much stuck, because the other option is a defunct board with nobody running it, and then a management company can't do things on their own. So if the entire board members, if all the board members quit because we said, you know what, we've had enough of this, we're tired of it, the management company cannot do anything besides just pay our current bills. They can't do anything for you. So if you wanted the pool house pressure washed and painted, they can't do it. They're not allowed to by law and contract. So we have to have board members. We have to have a board. We have certain requirements for our board, and more involvement is better than none. So thanks again for taking the time to watch this. I hope it's available afterwards so I don't have to record this again. And take care.